Welcome back to the Center in the City podcast. I'm your host, Wade Brill, and I am so glad you are here. In today's solo episode, we're exploring the practice of wintering with intention. If you're noticing you have lower energy, you're craving more stillness, maybe craving a little bit more isolation, you're feeling a little overwhelmed by the darker months, or just kind of, your energy or mood gets shot with the winter, my hand is raised because that is me. This episode is also for you. And I'm going to invite you to relate to the season a little differently, one that refreshes your energy instead of drains it. And this comes from personal experience because I have a very dynamic relationship with the winter here, especially in Seattle in the Pacific Northwest. And so I want to share with you what's worked and helps me get through the winter months in hopes that it can also support you. So wherever you are listening to this podcast, on a walk, cooking, chilling at home, I welcome you to settle in and let's get centered. We live in a culture that loves to push, right? We love to push productivity. We love to push positivity. We love to push through extreme discomfort. But winter has a different rhythm. Winter is inviting us to naturally slow down. And it's not because winter isn't doing anything, right? Not being productive. But instead, what's happening in winter is the trees, the animals, they're all preparing. They're all going into a place of conservation so that they can bloom and blossom and give later, right? And animals can go into hibernation so that they can rest, they can burrow, restore. And it's something that they do because of the climate they're in. They've learned how to evolutionary embrace the winter, that it doesn't make sense to try to go out into the winter, to fight it, to push through the cold, to try to go hunt in these ways when that's not what's going to actually work, when they're going to waste energy. So instead, they hibernate, they go into reserve. So as humans, we forgot that we're also animals and we act like nothing has changed. And the results are that we get even more exhausted. We make the holiday time, which happens in the Northern Hemisphere during the winter, we find this pushing quality. I got to push to the end. I got to push to the end of, so, I can wrap up the calendar year and taxes can all be organized and all the things. And we then push, and then we push into the beginning of the year and feel like we're off to the races. And so there's not really time for us to deeply rest and restore, except for what we think of our 2 weeks vacation in the American calendar. It's truly bananas to think that us humans, that we should be operating at full capacity year round. And it's one of the reasons that I think as humans, we're feeling so much burnout and disconnection because of not only the speed that we're being asked to work at with the increase of technology, but the essence of how constantly connected we are. There is not as much off time as was previously built into our lives. I want to be clear, I'm not saying one is bad or the other. As humans, we're adaptable, we're animals, right? So we're changing with our environment. But because the world is moving at such a fast speed, we as humans also have to learn how to adapt. We don't need to speed up. We're not here to compete with AI and robots. We're here to now actually invite ourselves to connect deeper to our human spirit, to our human qualities, so that we can live those in a brighter, more authentic way. Now, the idea of wintering, used to make me want to vomit, to be honest. I was like, who wants to be stuck inside, and who wants to be cold, and who wants to have darker days? I want to be outside. I want it to be sunny, and I want it to be bright, and I want it to be warm, and I want it to be playing all year round. To be honest, that is more my ideal environment. And that's my truth. However, I also need to be realistic with where my feet are and the environment that I'm currently in. And the environment that I'm currently in is one that gets really dark really early. No, I don't live in Alaska where it's dark most of the days this time of year, but I will say Seattle, the sun raises close to 8 a.m. and it sets after 4 p.m. And we are lucky if there are sunny days during the winter. And so finding time to not only embrace the darkness, but also find our own light has been a skill and a practice that I've built over the 12 years of living here. Once I learned to accept the darkness, like the winter's here, I can't fight it. I can't make it go away. Once I could really accept it was here, it actually invited my body to rest in a completely different way than I've been able to rest throughout the other months of the year. So even though we are in the midst of the holidays, which can be really busy and full, this time of year is also inviting us to simplify. It's inviting us to really pay attention to what we want to say yes to, what we want to say no to. It's an opportunity to return to our bodies, to feel grounded in our bodies, to deepen presence, and to start to invite reflection, right? When we're in these winter months, it's a beautiful time of going inwards so that when spring does arrive, we have this really rooted, grounded, rested body, heart, and mind that we can spring from. Now I want to be realistic, right? We're all also still living full, busy lives in the winter. It's not like we can just fully shut down and hibernate, right? We're still working. We're still taking kids to school. We're still grocery shopping. We're still seeing friends or saying yes to dinner parties, but it's at a different pace and it invites different activities. Let's explore ways that we can winter, ways that we can invite inward reflection and connection that gets to look different than it does during the spring or summertime. So I want to share with you ways that we can think about wintering using my mindful hand of self-care model as we dive into this topic. So for those that don't have the book, 100 Mindful Moments to Balance and Energize, you can definitely purchase that, linked in the show notes. And in the book, I have this framework called the mindful hand of self-care, where the thumb represents our mindset, the pointer finger represents fuel, food, nourishment, the middle finger represents movement, the ring finger represents space, what's in our physical space, as well as the people in our space, and the pinky finger represents renewal. So we're going to go through this and think about how this framework, each pillar of this framework, can support us wintering with intention. So a mindset that can be really helpful during the wintering months is what I mentioned earlier, is this practice of acceptance. For me, this is so big. It's like recognizing, again, I can't control the weather. I can embrace it. I can accept what's here. So accepting the weather conditions, accepting the light, accepting the temperature, right? Accepting all that is happening outside of our control. Once we practice accepting something, we can then get curious about it, right? We can get more curious and think about, how can I show up more fully to what's here in the wintering months? What does it look like to actually be in relationship to wintering in a more supportive way for me right now? How do I want to use these wintering months to support my holistic well-being? If you ask yourself some of these simple questions or even other curiosities that you have for yourself, you'll start to maybe notice sparks of joy or more kind of childlike wonder start to arise for you. Like, oh yeah, actually, how can I have fun with this wintering month? Instead of dragging my feet through it, like, oh yeah, how do I want to use it? And like, what is this actually, how can I make this cozy and fun? When we work on the mindset, it helps shift our attention so that we can then really be open to what's next. And another really helpful pillar here with our mindset is offering some compassion, some care for ourselves, because we don't want to just bulldoze our truth, maybe our pain, our discomfort, our fears, our resistance. We don't want to just slap a smile on that, because that's what's called false positivity, fake positivity. So we want to offer care to anything within our heart and mind that there might be a feeling to. So for me, I notice there is this like sadness that shows up, this grief maybe around the holidays or just this time of year, wishing and wanting some more familiar family cozy vibes. And instead of just slapping well, be happy for what you have feeling, I also can meet that place of ouch, that place of yearning with care and like, oh, it's okay, sweetheart, to want those things. That makes complete sense. You're not alone in wanting to feel cozy family connection. And how great to be able to name what your heart is wanting right now and needing right now. So offering myself, my inner world, a little hug with some compassion and care is also so essential for us to know that we have our own back in the wintering months. Any situation that we're navigating in life, these pillars of acceptance, curiosity, and compassion are so essential with whatever we're tackling, but they can really help us in these wintering months as well. As we move through the mindful hand of self-care framework, the pointer finger is next, which represents fuel and nourishment. What gets me excited, because I love food. Food is just an essential way to feel spiritually connected to something bigger than myself. It's also something that helps me feel connected to others, whether alive or deceased. So when it comes to wintering, I think of, okay, what feels cozy to feed and fuel my body, my family's body with, lots of soups, roasted vegetables. I mean, to be honest, I eat roasted vegetables like all year round, but I love roasted vegetables, especially the winter where we can have more squashes and more cruciferous vegetables. And you're thinking about, what's in season right now. I've also been in this phase of pumpkin chocolate chip everything, pumpkin chocolate chip pancakes, pumpkin chocolate chip bread. Like that flavor combination right now has also been so nourishing. I'm very late to the party, but I had my first pumpkin latte, decaf latte the other day, and it was so good. And really, like, I now understand why everybody becomes obsessed in the fall, but that has really become a warming drink for me in the winter months. My body also has been craving just sipping on hot water with lemon, hot water with ginger and cinnamon stick, just having hot water to sip on versus my general go-to water bottle that just had tap water in it, neutral tap water in. I am now just craving sipping on the warmth all day long. I welcome you to tune into your body and think about, what is your body craving from a fuel perspective? What is it wanting for nourishment when it comes to food? And what would it be like to listen to that these next few months? What would it be like to really honor what your body's wanting? Next pillar of the framework is movement, which is the middle finger. And it's purposely the middle finger because it's typically the thing we say, fuck you to when life gets full and busy and our schedules get cramped. And guess what? That's the season we're in, right? The holidays. We love to create so many excuses for why we won't move our bodies. And I'm here to remind you that just because we're wintering and we're spending more time inside doesn't mean that we can't spend time outside and or moving our bodies. There's a saying here in Seattle that there's no bad weather, only bad gear. And depending who you are, you might have a specific relationship to that saying. I go in and out of agreeing with it. However, what is true is that just because the weather is colder or it's rainy or snowy does not stop me from getting outside. If I don't get outside at least one time a day, if not more, I will go bananas. And so I make it a priority to still go on that walk, take that centered walk, whether it's a sunrise chasing walk in the morning to catch that first morning light, which, oh my God, is so good for our mental health and our circadian rhythm. Taking a reset walk in the middle of the day, or taking a morning walk to set your intention, or taking a joy walk or an awe walk. Like, these are all opportunities within the Centered Walk audio collection that you can also download right to your phone. I'll link that in the show notes if you're interested. You have all of these guided walking meditations that are so helpful to take you outside, or you could stay inside in your living room or space where you could walk and practice moving your body with intention. Comes to movement, this time of year invites us to get curious with our body and think of, how do you want to move, body? For some people, they're so excited because the winter means skiing, snowboarding, cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, right? Getting outside in the powder and enjoying that kind of movement and fresh air and scenery. For me, I notice I crave more dancing during the wintering months. I crave dancing indoors, whether it's by myself or in community, but sweating together is a really powerful way to get cardio, to move my body, to release energy, to find strength, and also be in community. I love taking winter walks outside, especially if it's not raining. But if it's raining, that means the temperature is not that cold. And it feels so good to just have fresh air and wind and elements on my skin and through my lungs. It helps me feel alive. For some people, the winter months invites them to do more Bikram yoga or hot yoga, wanting to go into that warm climate and be in community and feel deep stretches and openings. Pay attention to, how does your body want to move this season? It might not be how it wanted to move this summer or this fall, or even how it wanted to move last winter. So be curious and listen. One of the things I notice about the winter time, it's not just because we're in holiday mode where we're eating a lot and going to different places, but we're wearing thicker clothes, right? We're wearing warmer pants, we're wearing thick sweaters or chunkier dresses. And when some of that happens, we can slowly lose, right? We're not showing as much skin. And so it can be harder for people to actually feel connected to their bodies, to feel connected to their skin, because they're not seeing it as often. So one of the things I recommend, and this might feel a little weird, I do this all year long, but I think definitely during the winter, it's helpful that when you're getting ready for bed or getting up in the morning, is to look at yourself in the mirror naked and to really appreciate your body. Gently put your hands on your body and just send some love, some gratitude for how your body helps you move and be in the world. Even putting your hands on those places that you notice the mind can judge or be really critical over. This is where we get to take some of that mindset work that we talked about with our thumb, of acceptance and curiosity and compassion, and we get to bring it into our relationship with our body. But knowing that you can still see your body, your skin during the wintering months, I think is so important, so that when spring and summer happen, because they will naturally happen, that you're not like, oh, that's what my legs look like, or oh, that's what my belly looks like, or my shoulders or my arms. It's like to really take in this beautiful, amazing body that you have. The next pillar of a mindful hand of self-care is space, our ring finger. And this represents not only what's in our physical space when we think about what we put in our space, but it is there to remind us of lighting and scents and color and texture, reminding us that our environment, our physical space, has a huge impact on our well-being. We can expand this even more to not think just about objects, but to also think about the people that we share or spend time with in our environment and our space. So, since the wintering months, our space might be more limited, it might be more constricted than it is during the spring or summer months where we might be more outside or out and about. So, this is a great time as you winter and you're spending time in your home to really look at your home, your environment with fresh eyes. Maybe cleaning out the closet, reorganizing. This is the time of year during the holidays where we're buying more shit or being gifted more things. And so as things enter our space, it doesn't mean we also have to receive everything. So being discerning about what we want to invite in and being excited about what we want to let out. When our space is a living being organism as well, even though you can just think of it as being filled with objects, it actually has its own energetic ripple. And so paying attention to that as it shifts and changes, or as you want to be in relationship to it in a different way. I'm noticing this wintering months that I'm craving more community and not just spending time with people, but really heart, deep soul connection to people. Like I am wanting to woo woo it up and host women's circles and have this type of heart connection with the people in my life. And I'm also craving playing with people and having that sense of joy and lightness. And so thinking about, game nights with friends or movie nights with friends, or I'm having some friends over for a soup night and sauna and clothing swap. So, thinking of creative ways to invite people into the home with warmth, with love, with care and play. So when we're wintering, it doesn't mean isolation, shut down, complete hibernation, but it's asking us to connect with people because of our weather in a different way. Since the light is so important to me, and when the sun goes down at 4 p.m. and it is dark, and I am talking like there's just a heavy darkness that sits over the Pacific Northwest this time of year, candles become a gift from God. They are a saving grace. The alive fire, the light, the hue, the warming hue, the smell, like all of it helps me feel so cozy and happy and like, okay, I can do this. I can get through these darker months. So I light a candle in the morning meditation practice when it's typically still really dark, and we light candles in the evening, or we even have these fake candles. They're solar candles, and they still have, though, a really beautiful hue, and they flicker like they're real lights. And so we light those, and we have electric fireplace. And so again, having these elements present really help me to slow down and settle into the space. So as you think about wintering, what supports you feeling good in your space this winter? What kind of candles, scents, lights, textures, blankets, temperature, slippers do you want to be wearing, engaging with, that are going to support you? And who do you want to winter with? What friends, what community, what family, what kind of activities do you want to be doing with people? Really support your well-being. And then I welcome you as we think about the last pillar here, renewal, rest and renewal, which is our pinky finger. And it's our pinky finger because we typically forget about our pinky finger. It's just this little thing off the side of our hand. And we think it's not important or necessary, but it is so essential. Sleep, rest, restoration, these are the foundational building blocks of being able to live well. Our batteries aren't charged. We have no way to live our purpose, to engage in meaningful connection, to serve other people, to be of service to ourselves. What does it truly look like to rest in the winter months? Rest in a way that might be different than resting in the summertime. So for instance, in the summertime, I love to rest sitting outside in our hammock. but I can't really do that during the winter months if it's raining, if it's snowing, if it's too cold. So, what are the ways that I actually enjoy resting with what's here? My husband and I love to use our sauna all year round, but we definitely use it more often during the winter months. And it becomes a ritual for us that after work around 6, 7, we'll go into the sauna before dinner. And it's a really nice way to end the workday and transition to some time with ourselves, some time with each other, and then have dinner. Resting in a warm bath, feeling my muscles relax, right? Because one of the things that happens during the winter months when we're cold is that our muscles will naturally tighten and tense. And so thinking about ways that let our body unwind from that constriction can be really helpful, warming ways. Now, because it's dark so early that by 6 p.m., it already feels like it's 9 p.m., and that will actually influence that we eat dinner earlier than we typically do, which might be closer to 8 or 8:30. But when the light shifts, it's like my body is saying, nope, let's have dinner early and let's go to bed early. And so I've noticed I've even been inspired to get in bed around 9 p.m., 9:30, which is really early for me. I typically am in bed around 10:30, 11 latest. Sometimes there's a part of my mind, I catch it saying, why are you going to bed? It's so early. Stay up, keep working, or keep doing that thing. But then I remind myself, like, I don't need to stay up to a certain hour, right? I can listen to my body's clock. And so if my body is saying, hey, get cozy and get in your warm bed and it's time to go to sleep, then great. I really can listen to that. And I've noticed I've actually enjoy going to bed earlier and waking up earlier, waking up when it's still really dark out so that I can have a more spacious, slower morning, sitting in the darkness with a candle, with my meditation practice. Like that has been a really welcoming transition so that when the light does come up around 7:45, 8, that I can maybe go on a quick walk before I hop on a call or just see that transition happen versus waking up and catching the tail end of that transition. What ways does your body want to rest these days that hopefully doesn't involve doom scrolling? Maybe it's listening to an audiobook, maybe it's getting a book from the library, maybe it's watching a documentary or watching your favorite series. Part of restoring your energy is actually having some creative time. And the winter is a great time for crafting, art night, knitting, whatever you're working on, watercolors, doing something with your hands, and not being attached to what it looks like, but just allowing yourself to be creative. I've noticed recently that I'm missing that. I feel that my connection to my writing practice has gone off the deep end. So I get curious about how to reconnect with that. I also have an opportunity to get curious and be like, what kind of creative outlet do I want to have right now? Is it candle making? Is it paper mache? Is it watercolors? Is it just doodling? So just even being present with myself enough to know that just because writing was an outlet for my creativity doesn't mean that has to be the thing I want to play with this season in my life. As you listen to this episode, I welcome you to take a moment to zoom out and ask yourself, which finger, which pillar of the mindful hand of self-care do I want to start with to support me wintering with more intention this week? You want to do some journaling and connect with some mindsets that could help you of acceptance, curiosity, compassion. Do you want to make something or buy something or try a new recipe and think about the pointer finger, your fuel, nourishment? Do you want to sit down and start to pay attention to your relationship with movement or give gratitude to the body in that mirror exercise? Maybe it's something with your space that you want to intentionally bring in that helps you winter or plans you want to make to be with other people in their space or your space? Or what do you want to do that's going to support you really resting, restoring your batteries? I would love to hear what's lighting you up of how to winter with intention this season. So reach out to me, let me know. You can drop me a message on Instagram at OneWade. You can send me an email linked in the show notes. And if you are craving this winter to go even deeper in your own introspection and spirituality practice, I welcome you to apply for the Winter Mindfulness Retreat that's happening this January 16th to the 18th on Whidbey Island here in the Pacific Northwest. And we're going to be in a beautiful cabin in the woods right by a lake. So we'll be surrounded by all of these gorgeous natural elements that really invite us to keep going in, to slow down, to let us shed things from the past year and open us up so that we can set intentions with more clarity for in 2026. So we'll be doing a lot of guided meditation and movement and introspection and mind mapping and intention setting. And it's just going to be a really amazing weekend, a weekend that you are going to be like, oh, I feel so much more myself than I've ever felt. So I can't wait to have you there. If you are curious to learn more, reach out with questions and you can learn how to apply in the show notes or head on over to retreat.centeredinthecity.org. Thanks for being here, for listening with your mind, your heart, your ears, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.